They said she'd shatter when he served her. You know how women get. That's the sentence that cracked my ribcage from the inside out. Low, snickering, casual, like they were talking about a broken dish, not a human heart. The voices drift from the dining room, muted by thick walls but not enough. My hands are full, silver tray balanced with wine glasses, but I stop mid-step in the hallway. My breath stills, feet planted. I lean slightly, just enough to hear. They're so predictable, Jules chuckles. That's my husband's business partner, oldest friend, godfather to our non-existent kids. Bet she balls before dessert. My husband laughs. That same laugh he uses during client pitches. Polished, arrogant, performed. I'm not even worried, he says. She's soft. Always has been. My name is Celeste Langley. I'm 34. And 5 days before Christmas, I become a ghost in my own home. Still visible, still moving, but no longer real to them. Just a form to perform around, bet on, trap, and unwrap at will. Before I go deeper into this story, thank you for being here. If you believe that no woman should ever be underestimated in her own home, take a second to subscribe. It's free, and maybe, just maybe, it'll help reach someone who needs to remember their worth today. Also, drop your location and time in the comments. Let's see where we're all healing from. Now, let me tell you what really happened. But this story doesn't start with betrayal, it starts with laughter. Always laughter? It's at Jules's lake house 2 summers ago. Sun warm on my skin, margarita glass sweating in my hand, everyone relaxed. Miles, my husband, raises his voice just enough so it travels. You know I could leave her tomorrow, right? Everyone laughs. Even me. He's got his arm slung around my shoulder, the way men do when they want to show ownership disguised as affection. His smile is lazy, charming. Everyone assumes he's joking. Of course he's joking. Look how he touches her. Look how she laughs. But inside something knotted. A small, hard twist of discomfort that never fully relaxed again. He does it often. Casual threats, dismissive sarcasm. At first they feel like throwaways. Lighten up, he'd say if I ever frowned. You're too sensitive. But over time, they thread themselves into my body. They shape the way I speak, dress, breathe. He never yells, never raises a hand. That would have been too easy to spot. Miles is a connoisseur of quiet cruelty. His tools are whispers, eye rolls, jokes dipped in champagne. At a New York fundraiser, he mutters under his breath after I try to join a conversation. Don't start rambling, please. At brunch with his parents. You know Cel's still figuring out what she wants to do with her life. It's cute. I defend him. For years I do. He's just teasing, I'd say to friends. That's just how he talks. But they see it. My best friend Layla pulls me aside after dinner one night, her fingers digging into mine a little too tightly. He doesn't have to hit you for it to hurt, she says. You're disappearing, Cel. I brush it off. I tell myself she's exaggerating, that she doesn't understand what marriage really looks like. I tell myself a lot of things. But then I stop wearing the red silk dress he once said looked like I was trying too hard. I start checking his mood before I speak in public. I rehearse my sentences before I ask questions. I laugh at jokes I hate. I don't post selfies anymore. I skip Layla's birthday. I skip my own. Miles likes control. The kind that wears a velvet glove. The kind you don't even realize is there until you try to move and feel the resistance. When my dad visits, he loudly mentions the dishes in the sink. When I forget to grab his dry cleaning, he mutters just loud enough, "What do you even do all day?" Still, I convince myself, at least he doesn't cheat. At least he's not violent. At least. Then came the night of the solstice gala. He was 2 scotches deep when he leaned in, lips too close to my ear, and whispered, You're just like your mother. Needy, clingy, always wanting more. My blood ran cold. He laughed when I flinched. When we got home, he collapsed into the couch, loosened his tie, and reached for the remote like nothing had happened. That was the night I stopped crying. I poured him another drink with hands that didn't shake and said, "You know, maybe we should draft something. You joke about leaving so much. Why not make it official?" He raised an eyebrow. "You afraid I'm gonna take your poetry books and yoga mats?" He grabbed a napkin off the coffee table, scribbled a fake prenup. "Here. Boom. Signed. Frame it." I smiled. "Thanks, babe." He passed out a few minutes later, but I didn't forget. I smoothed out that napkin, and the next morning I drove to a notary 2 towns over, had it stamped, sealed, witnessed. I wasn't planning anything. Not yet. Not fully. But that's how it begins. Not with rage, not with screaming, with silence, with ink, and the knowledge that power can be taken back one line at a time. Awaiting continue, you said. Continue. ChatGPT said. Section 2. There's a kind of power in pretending. It sounds twisted, but it's true. After I notarize the napkin, I go back to being the perfect wife. No sudden changes, no dramatic shifts. If anything, I become better. More attentive, more agreeable, more invisible. Miles thinks he's won, and I let him. But something inside me has shifted, a hinge unlatched, a wire tripped. From that day forward, every breath I take is 1 degree closer to leaving him. He doesn't notice. Because the version of me he's built in his mind isn't someone who plans, isn't someone who hides a fireproof folder under the winter coats in the hall closet labeled Q4 Utilities. Isn't someone who has a burner email, quietly syncing his texts and flag transactions to the cloud. I was a mirror to him now, reflecting back only what he wanted to see. At the kitchen counter, while he scrolled through sports highlights, I offered him a refill of bourbon and kissed the top of his head. He mumbled thanks, didn't even look up. I was learning to disappear on purpose. The days were quiet, but my notebook wasn't. I logged everything. The new number saved under Mick that texted at 1:47 a.m. The Uber receipt to a hotel we'd never stayed at. The perfume sample I found in his coat pocket with lipstick on the folded paper. Not mine. I didn't rage. I didn't confront. I documented. I learned what nights he lied and when he was telling partial truths. I marked patterns, names, times. I added initials, clipped receipts, copied call logs, and color-coded them by suspicion. To anyone else, it looked like the life of a bored housewife. To me, it was scaffolding. My friend Layla noticed the difference before he did. "You seem calmer," she said over coffee one Sunday. I smiled softly, swirling cream into my cup. "I'm learning how to breathe underwater." She didn't press further. She didn't have to. Then came the phone calls. Miles had grown lazy. He'd walk into another room during dinner and take calls on speaker. Sometimes I'd stand just outside the door, heart slowed, breath steady, listening. "I'm not saying I'm leaving yet," he'd say, "but she's been clingy, smothering." Once he said I was good for optics, like a throw pillow he liked during open houses. Another time he told someone named Lexi, "I don't even know if she can survive on her own." That night I did our taxes on the living room floor and made a quiet note. Begin learning about accounts he thinks I don't know about. He had 3. The gala was the first time I tested my new mask. I wore a dress he hated, charcoal gray with a back cutout and sleeves like armor. He made a face when he saw me. "Not exactly soft," he muttered. I said nothing, just handed him his cufflinks. That night, when he made his usual joke about how Celeste could spend $400 on decorative moss, I laughed with the crowd and lifted my champagne in mock salute. The crowd loved it. So did he, Because what's more satisfying than a woman who knows her place? When we got home, he pulled me into the hallway, kissed my neck sloppily, and whispered, "You're such a good sport." I wiped my neck the moment he turned away. By spring, the cracks in his narrative were growing. He booked a business trip to Austin in March. I knew he hated Austin. But he went anyway, stayed in a boutique hotel. I called the front desk, asked for Mr. Langley. They transferred me to his room without question. He wasn't there. I made a note, screenshot the call log, printed the email confirmation, stapled them to the back of my journal. That's when I started recording. Nothing dramatic. Just voice memos of things he said during dinner. Little comments like, "Honestly, you don't really bring anything to the table anymore." Or, "If we split, I'd be doing you a favor." They weren't illegal, but they were poisonous. And over time, the toxicity grew clearer to anyone who cared to listen. Still, I played along. Still, I cooked dinner. Still, I said, "I love you," when he hung up the phone distractedly on business calls. And he? He drifted further into arrogance, into entitlement, into the belief that I was too soft, too attached, too small to ever cut myself loose. But here's the thing about women like me. We don't snap. We unfasten. Quietly. Systematically. Until one day the chains fall off with a sound so soft, it doesn't even wake the monster sleeping next to us. Awaiting continue, you said. Continue. ChatGPT said, Section 3. The napkin stayed hidden in plain sight for weeks. Folded, sealed in a slim envelope marked gift receipts, tucked inside a filing drawer where Miles never looked. Because why would he? Paperwork was beneath him unless it had a corporate logo on it. But I didn't just keep it. I fortified it. Layla connected me with a friend of hers, Lana, a family law paralegal who owed her a favor. I met her at a quiet cafe 3 towns over. No makeup, ball cap. I didn't introduce myself right away. I just slid the napkin across the table. She unfolded it and blinked twice, then looked at me like I'd just handed her a live grenade. "Is this real?" He signed it, drunk. I notarized it the next morning. She squinted at the date, the signature, the handwriting. "No coercion?" "Nope." She whistled low and leaned back in her chair. "You've got something here, but you need teeth." So we added teeth. Lana helped me draft an addendum, a real one. Language that removed ambiguity, clear definitions of asset division, clauses for spousal protection, notes that supported the fact that the original was voluntary, not compelled, and made in the absence of duress. I signed, she stamped. We made copies. Then came the fireproof drive. Then came the metadata. Then came the private email, shared only with Layla and Lana, the backup cloud, the redundant storage, the fail-safes stacked like dominoes in a hallway I intended to walk down only once. Still, I said nothing to Miles. He was riding high by then. Promotion pending. Gym every morning. Long lunches with no explanation. New aftershave I didn't recognize. I started leaving my hairbrush in my work bag and letting my perfume fade. I was slowly becoming scentless in our shared home, like a ghost in training. The night I found the hotel key in his coat pocket, room 504, Mayfair downtown, I didn't confront him. I made lasagna. He ate 2 servings, burped, and went to bed early. I curled up with my laptop and uploaded everything: photos of the key card, metadata stamped images, screenshots of call logs, receipts of charges on our joint card to the Mayfair minibar, 2 bourbons, 1 sparkling water. He thought I was sleeping beside him. I was cataloging his downfall. By June, I started seeing a therapist. Not to fix the marriage. I had stopped believing it could be fixed, but to clear the fog from my own head. Dr. Myers didn't pry. She just nodded and asked the questions I'd been too scared to let form in my own mind. What would you do if you weren't afraid? It haunted me. That question. So much so that I wrote it on a sticky note and pressed it to the bathroom mirror. Miles saw it once and laughed. Getting into Pinterest quotes now? I smiled. Just something from a podcast. He nodded like that made sense. That same week, I overheard him on the phone in his office. I wasn't eavesdropping. He was shouting this time. No, I'm not worried. She's a wreck. All I have to do is push and she'll fold. I stood in the hallway, spine straight, palms open. That was the moment the scales tipped. The woman I had once been, the girl who apologized for taking up space, who checked his face before she laughed, who rehearsed her responses before dinner parties. She didn't just fade. She died. I started practicing silence like it was a martial art. By August, I had a full binder. Dividers, tags, timelines, color-coded flags for comments, finances, patterns of absence, voice memos stored and backed up, encrypted files stored on separate clouds. Every careless comment, every bruised smile I'd swallowed, converted into strategy. I was building a map out of a minefield. Then, one morning, he did something that felt almost scripted. He handed me his phone to look at a photo from a company event. A harmless group shot, him and his team in matching shirts. But when he turned to grab his coffee, I saw the preview of a message slide across the top of the screen. 2 more weeks. Christmas, babe. You in? I opened it. A thread. Her name was Tessa. Blonde. From accounting. You think she'll cry? Nah. She's soft, but she's numb. Should be easy. Bring the papers to dinner. I want front row seats. That was the moment. I didn't freeze. I didn't cry. I emailed the screenshots to Lana. Then I made him pancakes. He never saw it coming. Awaiting continue. You said. Continued, ChatGPT said. Section 4. It's funny, the things you notice when you know the exact day your life will break open. The scent of pine candles masking mildew near the windows. The uneven wobble of a dining chair you keep forgetting to fix. The way he chews when he's lying. Slower, more deliberate, like he needs time to shape the story in his mouth. 2 weeks before Christmas, I bought a new clutch. Sleek, gold clasp. Just large enough for a pen, a flash drive, and one very particular folder. While he was out with clients, I stood in front of the hallway mirror, practicing my expression in the reflection. Calm, warm, not smug. Control wasn't about the paper. It was about posture. Miles thought he was directing the play. He didn't realize I'd written the second act. He got careless in those final days. Bolder. Maybe he thought the end was near so his mask could slip. Or maybe he was just that sure I'd crumble. He stayed out late, once until 4 a.m., and when I asked if he was okay, he snorted. You're not my mother, Celeste. No, I was the woman quietly syncing his call logs to a cloud server. The woman tracking his every financial move with software he didn't even know we had access to because I had opened the joint account. The woman who had already met with a mediator, filed a motion, and confirmed service through certified mail, all waiting for the date. But still, I cooked. Still, I laughed when he made jokes about me in front of Jules. She still thinks we'll retire together. Isn't that cute? Jules laughed. She'll fall apart. I arranged sliced persimmons on a cheese board and said nothing. That night, I added another voice memo to the folder. Labeled it, They Think I'll Break. On December 22nd, he came home with a smug tilt to his lips and a bag of grocery store roses. He set them on the kitchen counter like an offering. Got something for you. Thanks, I replied, folding towels. I'll put them in water. He kissed the top of my head and grabbed a beer. That night, I pulled the roses apart and scattered the petals down the garbage disposal. Turned it on low. Watched them vanish petal by petal. His grand gestures always wilted quickly. I finalized the meal plan for Christmas dinner. Check the seating chart. Confirm my sister Dahlia would arrive early to help. She didn't know the full story. Just enough to stand beside me if things twisted. And then, the night before, I ironed his maroon sweater. The one with tiny embroidered reindeer he only wore on holidays. I set it on the bed for him. Christmas morning, everything was staged. Roast in the oven, apple tarts prepped, crystal glasses polished, the dining table dressed with gold napkins and place cards I lettered myself. He walked in from the shower, kissed my cheek absently. "Everything looks amazing, babe." I smiled. "Merry Christmas." "You too." His tone was light, rehearsed. "This one's going to be memorable." "I bet it will." Guests trickled in, parents, friends, a few distant cousins. Laughter filled the halls. Miles carved the roast like a hero in a Hallmark film, playing the role he'd perfected. And I played mine, the gracious wife, the beautiful prop, the unsuspecting ornament in his finale. He tapped a butter knife against his wineglass and stood. I could feel Dahlia's hand tighten under the table next to mine. "I have a little something for my wonderful wife," he announced. He pulled the envelope from his blazer. No bow, no glitter. Just stark white paper in a cruel hand. He laid it in front of me, eyes glittering. Jules raised his glass in mock salute. I picked it up slowly, opened it, read it. Petition for dissolution of marriage. Already signed, already filed. Highlighted clause at the bottom. Asset surrender, timeline, no mention of negotiation. I looked up and smiled. "Thank you," I said, my voice soft, sweet. Confusion flickered across his face. Then I reached into my clutch, pulled out my silver pen, signed, dated, capped it, handed it back. Done. Then I reached into the clutch again and placed a gold-wrapped box in front of him. "What's this?" he asked, brow pinching. "Your real gift." He opened it. A leather folder. Inside, the notarized prenup, the addendum, the timeline. His smirk faltered. Jules leaned over, trying to read. "What is that?" I answered for him. "It's the contract Miles signed last year. Drunk, remember? I had it notarized the next day, just in case." "You can't be serious," Miles started, voice low. "Oh, I'm very serious. It's legal. It's filed. You signed it. I just added the parts you forgot." I slid a second document toward him. Bank statements, messages, timestamps. "And these show intent. That message you sent? You think she'll cry?" That was cute. His face drained, hands flat on the table. "You're bluffing. Check your email." A soft ding came from his pocket. He reached for his phone with trembling fingers. Subject line: prenup confirmed, finalized, witnessed, filed. I smiled gently. "Merry Christmas, Miles." Awaiting continue. "You said, continue," ChatGPT said. Section 5. The silence that followed was not hollow. It was full, pressurized, electric, like the air before a storm. Miles stared at his phone. His thumb scrolled, hovered, scrolled again. His father cleared his throat. Jules leaned back in his chair, face slack with disbelief. Dahlia watched me, jaw slightly open, like she was trying to catch her breath in real time. Then came the real twist. I reached into my clutch one last time and placed a much smaller envelope onto the table, slim, square, white as a whisper. "What's that?" he asked, voice smaller now, less smug, less sure. "Your last surprise," I replied. He opened it slowly, pulled out a small black and white photo. The sonogram. At first he didn't register what it was. Then it hit him. "You're 8 weeks, I said, tone even. "Congratulations, Dad." Something in his expression cracked. His eyes darted between me, the sonogram, and the documents in front of him. For a second, just one, he smiled. The real kind. Unplanned. But it withered fast, eclipsed by panic. But, he stammered, you planned this. I met his eyes, steady as steel. No, I prepared. And just like that, the room shifted. Not in volume, no one screamed, no plates shattered, no hands were slammed against tables. But the energy changed. Like a curtain had fallen and the play was over, the audience finally seeing the wires and sandbags backstage. Miles's mother sat frozen, pearls trembling faintly against her neck. His father adjusted his glasses and pretended to check a text. Jules shifted in his seat, scratching his neck like he was suddenly very itchy and very far from where he wanted to be. Dahlia reached under the table and squeezed my hand. Her grip was fierce, proud. Miles opened his mouth again, closed it. You think this will stand? He asked finally, voice low. It already has, I answered. I filed first. I have confirmation. You handed me the pen. You just didn't think I'd know how to use it. His phone buzzed again. Then again. A new message, this time from his own attorney, probably just now discovering the bombshell in the system. Subject line, I said aloud, smiling. Emergency. You didn't tell me she filed first. That one made Jules flinch. Miles looked down at the folder again, like it might self-destruct if he stared hard enough. Then he pushed his chair back. The legs scraped against the wood floor in a sound that startled no one. You think you've won? He muttered. But I didn't respond. He didn't deserve a reply. He stormed out of the room without taking the documents, the sonogram, or his wine. He left behind everything. For a moment, no one moved. Then Dahlia let out a shaky breath and leaned into me. I always hated that reindeer sweater, she whispered. That cracked it. A soft ripple of laughter, low and uneven, passed around the table. My cousin Nora snorted. Miles's mother coughed into her napkin and excused herself to the powder room. Jules stood slowly, clearly unsure of what to do with his face, and mumbled something about a call he had to take. The rest stayed seated. No one reached for the dessert plates. No one poured more wine. And me? I sat straighter. Not triumphant. Not even vindicated. Just still. Apple or pecan? I asked, rising with the quiet grace of someone who'd rehearsed her piece. Dahlia stood too, taking the pie from the sideboard. Both, she said. You earned it. We served in silence. No one dared challenge me now. Not with the baby growing inside me, not with the weight of his arrogance folded into legal documentation and calmly handed over like a dinner napkin. I didn't need to raise my voice. I didn't need revenge. This was resolution. Quiet. Irreversible. Final. Later that night, after everyone had gone, some embarrassed, some awed, some changed, I sat by the fireplace with a mug of peppermint tea and a blanket pulled over my knees. The house was still. No footsteps overhead. No muted arguments through the bathroom door. No TV echoing into 2 a.m. Nothing but the crackle of the fire and the slow, sure rhythm of my own breath. He didn't call. He didn't come back. I doubted he would tonight. And I didn't care. I touched my belly softly, fingers splayed. You will never mistake fear for love, I whispered. I meant it with everything in me. Awaiting continue, you said. Continue. ChatGPT said. Section 6. The next morning, the light feels different. It filters through the kitchen blinds like it's never done before. Softer, warmer, less sharp. Maybe it's the absence of tension. Maybe it's just the absence of him. I make myself a full breakfast. Eggs, toast, fruit. I don't count calories. I don't eat fast. I don't brace for footsteps behind me that never come. By 9 a.m., I'm on the phone with a locksmith. Emergency or standard change? The woman asks. Standard, I say. Then, after a pause. But make it fast. He arrives that afternoon. Quiet, older, with a weathered face and kind eyes. He doesn't ask questions, just takes the keys I hand him and nods when I say, none of these should work anymore. When he leaves, I stand in the foyer alone with the new key in my hand. It's cool to the touch. Heavy, almost. The first thing I've held in years that's only mine. That night, I move into the master bedroom. It still smells like his cologne, cold and expensive and sharp at the edges. I open every window, let the December air sweep through the curtains and across the pillows. I strip the bed, stuff the sheets into black trash bags, and carry them to the garage like I'm taking out ghosts. I find a box of sandalwood candles in the linen closet, ones I used to love before he claimed they gave him headaches. I light 3. The shadows they cast flicker and sway across the walls like dancers, fluid, unbothered, free. 2 days later, the mail starts coming. Envelopes with urgent red stamps, final notice, past due, immediate action required. I don't open them. I stack them neatly in a tray by the door, let them pile up like little paper tombstones, a silent archive of a life I no longer claim. Then Jenny, Layla's friend, the paralegal turned lawyer, calls me. You won't believe this, she says, voice practically giddy. Try me. His attorney called in a panic this morning. Apparently your husband's been less than forthcoming. It wasn't until they opened the file you submitted that the picture became clear. I smile into the phone, curled under a throw blanket, a cup of chamomile warming my palms. Is it official? Let's just say he's going to need a payment plan. I laugh. Not from spite. Not even satisfaction. Just relief. He's going to contest, I say. Let him. We have the paper trail. We have the timestamps. And now, with a child involved? She pauses, lets it sink in. He's lost 70% overnight. I close my eyes. Not because I'm tired, but because I can. I don't have to be on alert anymore. I don't have to calculate every breath, every facial expression, every angle of a conversation. I am safe. I'm proud of you, Jenny says. Her tone softens. Not because of what you won, but because of how you did it. Thanks for staying, I whisper, even when I didn't know I needed someone to. You've always been strong, Celeste. You just finally stopped pretending you weren't. The fallout comes in ripples, not waves. Some friends fall away, those who admired the couple image, the curated smiles. A few reach out with awkward messages. I'm not taking sides, but others? Others are bolder. A message arrives from a woman I haven't spoken to since college. Just one line. I wish I had your strength. Then a bouquet shows up at my door. Peonies. My favorite. No name. Just a card tucked into the stems. About time. I smile. Claire. His assistant. Of course. The story travels faster than I expected. In the office, among friends, in whispers and group texts, and long trailing email chains. The man who once joked about training wives like interns now walks the hallways with his shoulders hunched, mumbling into his coffee. I hear from someone on Dahlia's husband's team that Miles has been off. Missing meetings, snapping at staff, avoiding eye contact. One afternoon, I pass him on the street. He's coming out of a bank, phone pressed to his ear, voice tight and angry. He doesn't see me, or maybe he does and doesn't know what to say. I keep walking. Later that day, Jenny sends me a screenshot. His name's gone, she says. Attached is the firm's quarterly newsletter, the list of partners. His name, once proudly bolded, is nowhere in sight. I send back a thumbs-up emoji and go make tea. The house smells like lemon balm and lavender. I light a candle, pull on wool socks, Play jazz from a dusty vinyl player he always said was clutter. It plays Billie Holiday. Soft, steady, unapologetic. That night, I start organizing the nursery. Soft sage green for the walls, string lights for the window. A giraffe plush I bought off a secondhand site. Its neck flopped endearingly to one side. I place it in the corner and smile. I hang a sign above the crib that says, "You are already loved." Because she is. Awaiting continue, you said. Continue, ChatGPT said. Section 7. The first time she kicks, I'm standing barefoot in the kitchen, humming to an old Nina Simone track while slicing peaches for a pie. At first, I think I imagined it. A flutter, soft and sudden, like someone brushing a fingertip across the inside of my belly. Then it happens again. Stronger. I drop the knife. Both hands fly to my stomach. I freeze. She's real. And she's here. Tears spring to my eyes, not the kind born of sadness, but the kind that rise up when something sacred unfolds in front of you and you finally feel the point of everything you've endured. I sit down on the floor, back against the cabinets, one hand pressed to my belly and the other covering my mouth. I laugh. I cry. I breathe. And in that moment, I am not Miles's ex-wife. I am not the woman he underestimated. I am just her mother. That night, I write in my journal for the first time in weeks. I keep the entries short, deliberate. This baby will never hear yelling through a door. Never feel like they're walking on glass. Never confuse fear for love. I underline the last line twice. My world has gotten smaller, yes, but warmer, softer, and every inch of it now belongs to me. In my second trimester, my cousin Wren moves in. She shows up with 2 duffel bags, a tin of homemade lemon muffins, and a smile that looks exactly like it did when we used to sneak out of summer camp to go stargazing behind the horse stables. "I'm not letting you do this alone," she says, plopping her bags at the door. "Also, you need someone to stop you from eating frozen grapes dipped in hot sauce. It's weird, Cel." We fall into rhythm fast. She works remotely from the kitchen table, wears fuzzy socks in June, sings off-key in the shower. She doesn't ask about Miles unless I bring him up, and I rarely do. That chapter has turned to dust. Layla drops by every few days with groceries and casseroles, and lists of ridiculous baby names. She leaves sticky notes in books like breadcrumbs. Page 43, do not name her Melody. Page 79. Raven? Cool? Or too vampire? We laugh more now than I did in the last 4 years combined. Our silence is no longer tight or fragile. It's companionable, shared. The nursery takes shape. I refinish thrifted furniture myself. Sand, paint, seal. I play classical music while I work and sing softly when no one's listening. Sometimes I feel her kick like she's dancing to my rhythm. Wren tries to assemble a rocking chair one weekend. After 3 hours and a screw she swears was manufactured in hell, she throws the instruction manual on the floor and declares, "This is how supervillains are made." We laugh until we wheeze. One quiet Sunday, I find myself reaching for a box at the very back of the hallway closet, the one I packed away a year ago. I know what's inside before I open it. Our wedding photos. I sit on the living room floor, cross-legged, flipping through images of a woman who looks like me but isn't. She has hope in her eyes. Blind, beautiful hope. She doesn't know the weight she's going to carry, or the years she'll lose trying to earn back love that was never real. But I don't cry. I don't flinch. I slip each photo into a manila envelope and label the box. To release. I drive it to the donation center. Hand it over without ceremony. Walk away, feeling 10 pounds lighter. On the way home, I stop at a bookstore. I buy a new leather journal. Soft brown, thick ivory pages, no lines. That night, I title the first page, "Plans That Are Only Mine." Every evening, I write in it. Some entries are just a word. Others spill across pages. But they're all mine. When Christmas comes around again, the air inside the house smells like cinnamon and pine, not tension. The table is smaller now. No overpolished centerpieces. No wine glasses used as weapons of charm. Just people who love each other. Honestly. Quietly. Dahlia brings her toddler, who drops mashed potatoes on the floor and yells, "Boom!" every time, like he's a tiny magician. Ren burns the vegan gravy. Layla brings a date, her first in over a year. I don't feel envious. I feel full. Next to the fireplace, there's a brand new high chair, white with little yellow stars. And in it sits the love of my life. My daughter. She has his eyes, maybe. But the rest? All mine. Her cheeks are pink from the cold. Her hands grip the edge of her tray like she's making a proclamation in a language only babies speak. And me? I'm not watching the door. I'm not checking my tone. I'm not rehearsing my responses or measuring my words. I'm here. Every moment. Every bite. Every laugh. Later that night, after everyone has drifted to the kitchen or stepped out into the snow for a walk, I stay by the fire. She's asleep on my chest, her tiny breath warming the fabric of my sweater. I hold her close and whisper softly, "He said I'd be nothing without him." She stirs barely. I kiss her forehead and smile. Turns out, I murmur, I'm everything without him. And I finally believe it.